Okay, let's get into this. Think about this. You need to lead a meeting. Maybe it's for work, maybe a community thing, or, online, and it's in English. Does that thought make you feel maybe a bit nervous?
Yeah, I think it does for a lot of people. It's a really common scenario, actually.
Right. And being able to host a meeting confidently in English, that's like a super useful skill to have.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what we're diving into today. We're focusing on giving you the practical language, the actual words and structure, so you can step into that hosting role feeling, prepared, feeling more in control.
Yeah, prepared and in control. That sounds good. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty simple, really. We're going to walk you through how a typical meeting flows, from the start right to the very end. And we'll highlight specific phrases, actual words you can pull out and use at each point. Kind of like getting your meeting toolkit ready.
Exactly, a toolkit. I like that. And, most meetings, whatever they're about, they tend to follow a similar kind of path. It all starts, at the beginning.
Makes sense. And right at the start, the very first thing is just making people feel welcome. Why is that so key?
It really sets the mood right from the get-go. If people feel comfortable immediately, they're usually much more willing to participate and connect. And simple phrases are usually the best here.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, just easy stuff. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Or maybe, good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. Just warm and friendly.
Okay, got it. Warm start. So everyone feels welcome. What often comes next? Maybe if the group isn't huge.
Introductions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a really good idea for smaller groups, say maybe fewer than 10 people.
Yeah.
If you have too many, it just takes ages. But for smaller settings, it really helps break the ice.
Break the ice.
Yeah, people are just much more likely to share ideas later if they actually know who they're talking with.
That totally makes sense. Knowing names, it just helps you feel a bit more comfortable joining in. So how do you actually ask people to introduce themselves?
Well, it depends. If you know most people, but there are a few new faces, you could say something like, I know most of you, but I see a few unfamiliar faces. Let's do a round of introductions.
Okay, a round of introductions. Does that just mean going one by one?
Yep, exactly. Just means everyone takes a turn. Could be literally around a table or just, one after the other, logically.
Gotcha. And what if, nobody knows anyone else?
Then you might just start straight off with, before we get started, let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. Nice and clear.
And what info should people share? Is it different depending on the meeting?
Oh, definitely. For, say, a professional meeting, like at work or a conference, you'd usually ask for their name, their role or job title, and maybe the company they work for. You can guide them. Please just say your name, your role, and the organization that you're from.
Right. Keep it professional. What about something more casual, like an online group for a hobby, maybe?
Yeah, for something informal like that, you might ask for their name, maybe where they're calling in from. That's really useful for online meetings, right? People in different places. And maybe add something fun, like an interesting fact. Someone could say, hi, I'm Riley from Perth, Western Australia, and I've lived in every Australian city.
Huh, okay. That could definitely get people talking a bit more.
Yeah, it just sparks a little connection sometimes.
Good point. Getting everyone comfortable early on seems key. So, okay, introductions are done. Now, you mentioned there are 3 really crucial things to do next to really kick off the meeting properly.
Yes, exactly. These 3 steps are kind of like laying the groundwork. They set the expectations, make sure everyone's on the same page about why they're there and what's going to happen.
Right. So what's number 1, the first foundational step?
Step 1 is stating the goal or the purpose of the meeting. It might sound super obvious, but you'd be surprised how often meetings feel pointless because the goal isn't clear. Everyone needs to know why they're giving up their time.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So how do you phrase that clearly?
You can focus right on the aim.
Yeah.
Our goal today is to plan the social media strategy for March and for April. Or you could focus on the outcome, what you want people to achieve. By the end of this session, everyone will know how to use the new accounting software.
Okay.
Or even simpler, maybe for a book club. We're here today to talk about George Orwell's novel, 1984.
Okay, clear goal stated. Check. What's the second essential step then?
Step 2 is outlining the agenda, or maybe more simply, the structure of the meeting. People generally like to know what topics are coming up and, in what order. It helps them follow along and sort of prepare mentally.
So basically showing them the plan for the time you've got.
Exactly. If you have a written agenda you sent out, you could say, I'll just draw your attention to the agenda. Or more simply, we've got a few things to get through today. and then you list them.
And if there's no formal paper agenda?
Yeah, even without a document, you can just tell them the different parts. Using those signposting words helps a lot.
Signposting words, you mean like first, then next?
Exactly those. Like first, second, then after that, next, and maybe finally. So you could say something like, okay, so the first item is social media, and then we'll move on to item number 2, which is customer satisfaction. After that, we'll take a look at customer feedback. And finally, we'll discuss the new marketing strategy.
Right. That really maps it out clearly. Makes it easy to follow. Okay, goal, agenda. What's the third step you need right at the start?
The third step is about setting some ground rules. Or a common term you'll hear in meetings is housekeeping.
Housekeeping. That sounds like tidying up.
Yeah, it does, but no. In a meeting context, housekeeping just means mentioning any sort of admin points or rules that will help things run smoothly. It's about managing the practical stuff, minimizing distractions.
Okay. So, like, how people should act during the meeting, things like that. How do you bring that up?
You can signal it clearly. Maybe say something like, okay, before we dive in, we just have to get through some housekeeping first. Then you just list the points that are relevant.
What are some common housekeeping things?
Oh, things like phones are a big one. If you have your phone with you, please take a moment just to turn it on silent or to switch it off, just so we don't have any disruptions. Or maybe how to handle questions. If you have any questions outside of the agenda, maybe just save them for the end.
Okay. And for online meetings, there are probably some specific ones, right? Those always seem to have their own challenges.
Absolutely. Online meetings need a few extra pointers, usually, you might say. If you have any questions during our discussion today, please just use the raised hand reaction or, raise your actual hand so I can see it on screen.
Right.
Or mention the chat. Feel free to share your comments and your questions in the chat as we go.
Right.
And the big one, please make sure you put your microphones on mute when you're not speaking, just to keep background noise and disruptions down.
Yeah, the mute button is crucial. Okay, those are all super practical. So we've done the welcome, introductions maybe, set the goal, the agenda, the rules. Phew. Now comes the main part, right? Actually managing the discussion.
Exactly. This is where you, as the host, really guide things. Your job is to encourage people to speak up, but also keep the discussion focused and, effective.
Okay, so how do you get people talking? Especially if everyone's a bit quiet at the start.
Yeah, that happens. You need to prompt participation. Maybe start broad. To kick things off, why don't we brainstorm a few ideas together? It's usually best to ask the whole group first before kind of singling anyone out.
Okay. What are some good ways to ask the whole group for their thoughts?
Simple. Open questions work well. What does everyone else think? Or maybe refer to something specific. What are your thoughts on the survey results? Or perhaps, I'd like to get your input on the new design.
And if you ask the group
Yeah.
and just get silence, crickets, do you eventually have to pick someone?
Sometimes, yeah. If a general question doesn't get a bite, you might need to gently call on someone specific. Just keep it friendly. What do you think about that, Riley?
Okay. So you're managing who talks and when. What if someone says something and maybe you're not totally sure you got it right? How do you ask for more explanation?
Asking for clarification. Super important skill, not just in meetings. You can ask for more detail politely. Can you explain that in a bit more detail? Or if you just need them to say it again. Would you mind going over that again, please?
Going over? That just means explaining it again, maybe more carefully.
Yeah, exactly. To go over something means to explain it again, maybe in more detail or just step by step. And related to that is paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. Saying it back in your own words. Why is that useful here?
It's great because it shows you are actually listening, like really listening. And it lets you double check your understanding without just saying, or asking them to repeat again. It confirms you're both on the same wavelength.
Okay, can you give an example of how that might sound?
Sure. Let's say someone explains a complex point about a deadline. You could say, okay, so if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is you're not really concerned about the deadline itself as long as the job's done well. Is that correct? Or maybe with some figures. So if I understood correctly, you're saying that all of these figures here are incorrect. You're basically mirroring their idea back to them for confirmation.
That's a really good technique for making sure everyone's clear. What if someone explains something, but it's maybe a bit complicated, and you want to simplify it for the rest of the group?
Yeah, that happens too. You can rephrase it for clarity. A really useful little phrase is, so in other words, and then you state the simpler version. Like if someone gives a long explanation about project delays, you might summarize it. So in other words, the report won't be finished on time.
Right. Cuts to the chase. Okay, so we've covered getting started, managing the discussion. Now, maybe one of the toughest jobs for the host? Keeping everything on track and, crucially, on time.
Oh, absolutely. Time management is key. Nobody likes a meeting that drags on forever. It's definitely your job as the host to watch the clock and, gently nudge things along when needed.
What are some phrases you can use to move to the next topic without sounding rude?
Well, if a discussion seems naturally finished, you could say, okay, great. If nobody has anything else to add on that point, let's move on. Or if you know time is tight for a specific item, you can signal that. Okay, I'm just conscious of the time, so let's move to the next item.
Right. But what if a discussion's just going on too long? Or maybe people start talking about something totally different. You sometimes have to interrupt, right? Politely.
Yes, sometimes you do have to step in. Politeness is key, though. You could start with, I'm really sorry, but I might have to stop you there for a moment. And then give the reason, usually time. We're running a bit short on time, so we really need to move on to the next point now.
Okay. And that thing about going off topic or off track, that seems to happen in almost every meeting. How do you pull the conversation back?
It does happen. People get enthusiastic. A good way to redirect is to acknowledge their point, but park it, you could say.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, but I'm afraid we don't quite have time to dive into that in today's meeting. Or perhaps we can add that to the agenda for next week.
Ah, that's smart. It shows you heard them, values their input, but keeps this meeting focused.
Exactly. You're not just shutting them down.
Right. Okay, so the discussion is managed, time is under control. As the meeting starts to wind down, what's important to do before everyone just logs off or leaves?
Summarize. Definitely summarize. It's so important for making sure everyone remembers the key takeaways, what was decided, and crucially, what needs to happen next. Who does what?
Okay, how do you kick off the summary?
Keep it simple. Okay, before we finish up, let me briefly summarize the main points we discussed today. And when you summarize, make sure you mention any specific tasks or action items that people agreed to take on.
Action items?
Yeah, like.
Hi.
So we've all agreed that Alex will write up the report from this session. It just confirms who's responsible for what.
That definitely helps avoid confusion later.
Okay.
Okay, summary done. Everyone knows their tasks. How do you actually close the meeting?
Well, it's pretty standard and just polite, really, to thank everyone. Thank them for their time, their input, their participation. Something like, okay, well, thank you so much for your time and your participation today. That usually signals things are wrapping up.
Makes sense. And if you know when the next meeting is scheduled.
Oh, yeah, if you know, it's really helpful to mention it. Just a reminder, the next meeting is on Tuesday, so I'll see you all then.
Okay. And then just a friendly goodbye.
Yep. Just a simple, pleasant sign-off as people are getting ready to leave or disconnect. Have a great day, everyone. Or enjoy the rest of your week. Something like that.
Wow, okay. That really walks through the whole thing, doesn't it? Start to finish, with actual phrases you can grab and use. It makes the whole idea feel much less intimidating.
It does, doesn't it? And honestly, learning these kinds of phrases and maybe practicing them a little, it can make a huge difference to your confidence when you're the one in charge. It's like having the words ready frees up your brain to focus on guiding the actual conversation.
Absolutely. And I guess the more you practice using them, maybe even just saying them out loud by yourself, the more natural they'll start to feel when you're actually in the meeting.
Exactly. And maybe think about this. Being able to host a meeting, well, in English, it isn't just about, ticking off agenda items. What if getting that confidence, mastering that language for leading, what if that opens up completely new chances for you? Opportunities to take the lead more often, share your ideas more powerfully, contribute in ways maybe you haven't before. What possibilities could that unlock for you?